I've had a couple questions on development number 6, so I'm going to go ahead and make a video on how to go ahead and do development number 6. So first thing I need to do, just like any of the other developments, is start out by creating the top view and the front view. We know that this is a hexagon that we're going to go ahead and create, and it tells us that the distance across from the point to the point is 1.75. So I know that that's going to be an inscribed hexagon. If I made a circle with a diameter of 1.75, the hexagon would be inside of that. So I'm dropping down, getting a polygon. First thing it asks is the number of sides. Hexagon has 6 sides. And I can go ahead and create that. Right there's that inscribed option. And I want to go ahead and set it to a diameter of 1.75. It doesn't give me the option for diameter, so I have to calculate my radius, which is 0.875. And I can double check that by measuring from the point to the point is that 1.75 that I want. Creating the front view on that then, I could go ahead, I'm going to find my point right here where those intersect, and come down 1 inch for my gap. Then I'm going to get the height on the back side, or on that left side of my object, is 2 inches tall. My object's width I can pull down from right here, or I could go ahead and measure over my 1.75, and on this edge it's 0.5 tall. I can go ahead and complete that and drop down these 2 lines, which are also lines in my front view. I think most students are able to figure out how to go ahead and create our development. Just in case, I'm going to go ahead and draw a line here, kind of like I did on some of the other assignments to tell which corner I'm starting at. So if that's the corner that I start at, I'm going to come over here 1 inch. And the height at that corner, if I drop down lines up with that point, this is where numbering the lines might come in good as well, but that works to track down and over. So I've got that vertical line there, that's this corner. All of these sides are the same width. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to offset and measure one of those sides. I've got 6 sides to it. I'm going to bring this line in so that I get 6 panels to deal with. Right, there's 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I can deal with the heights on these individual panels. Across the bottom, the height is consistent. Across the top, it changes though. So my next corner is right here, and we can see that this is the height for that next corner. So I could project that over and connect up. My next corner is right here. Once again, I can see that this is the height for that next corner. I can project that over and connect up. Continuing on around, this is my next corner. I can see that this is the height for that next corner. Project that over, connect it back up. Then we're going to start working our way around the back side. So we're back to this being our height, connected to the previous one. A good way to know that we did this type of development correctly is in the end, our starting and our end height on our development piece end up being the same. So right here's our final corner. I track that over, it's this top point. Notice how this height is the same as this height over here. So I could go ahead and trim those out of there. I could go ahead and offset if I want to and put my tab on the side. Put my angles on there so that I go ahead and have my tab that's going to fold in there. Students seem to do fine getting the bottom pattern because all I need to do is copy this to the bottom, but I've had several students ask about creating that top. So I've gone ahead and created my bottom. I could put tabs on that. I'm not going to demonstrate that because that's not really the question here. The question is how to create the top. Fortunately, we just got done with the unit that does an auxiliary. And essentially that top is going to be an auxiliary of this object because that's what it's going to need to fold into there. That's going to be the view that looks straight on at it. So if I'm going to create an auxiliary, I might need to move things around a little bit, make a little bit more space for myself. As far as creating that auxiliary, all I'm going to do is I'm going to offset up, and I'm going to bring this up any convenient distance. I'm going to do 1 inch just to make it easy on myself. And then the depth of this object I can measure there. I'm offsetting still. Measured that depth. Right there is where my top view is going to fall within. I can project this line up and this line up. Remember, with an auxiliary, it's as though I rotate this so that my line of rotation lines up with the angle at the top of my object. So I can see based on this that I'm going to have a straight line on this side, straight line on this side, and then it's going to angle into the midpoint top and bottom. So if I'm looking at that, I'm going to project this line up. Okay, so I have to get the correct angle. To be able to get that correct angle, I'm going to draw that line in there and just move it to the location I want, and then copy it. Since this is not one of our standard angles, that makes sure that we get the correct angle on our object. We have this straight piece of line here, straight piece of line here. I should be able to connect that to midpoint and back up, and this one to midpoint and back down. And just like that, I created my auxiliary. I could clean this auxiliary up. If I did everything correctly, this line should be the same length as this line, and so on. So I'm just going to do a real quick check here. That's 0.952. Okay, so when I go ahead and check this out, my original hypothesis about those being the same length, I forgot that it's based on angles that are going to change. So that's why that was wrong. I'm going to go ahead and trim this up though and show you how I could really check that. So what's going to happen is that this piece is going to line up right here. I'm going to just move that over into place. I could check this by printing it out, folding it up, all of that. Or now I can see that this line is going to line up here. I see that that line I made already lines up. So now what I actually want to do is check the length of this line, which is the 0.952, and that one. So they're going to line up. That tells me that my pattern is correct. Once again, I'd want to put tabs around that top, but that's the gist of creating this type of development. I've created the basic curve right here. I've gone ahead and created the hexagon on the bottom, created the auxiliary for the top. Everything lined up great. Now if this was a circle up here, instead of going ahead and being a hexagon, you'll learn about this later, but I'd go ahead and do this in a polyline and fit it instead.